Hello, folks.
Hey, good morning.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Thomas. Give everyone a couple minutes to get joined in. Resume recording. There we go. That'll be what I'll do. I'll turn it off and forget to
Great
turn it back on.
responsibility.
Right? I was at my kids' event on Sunday and I was like recording it and I'm like, oh shoot, it didn't change. Yeah. All right, so welcome. Today is February 28th. Today is the big day where we were targeting to get to content complete. So everybody, get in your last minute fixes and things. I mean, it's not like we can never edit it again, but this is our stake in the sand. We'll close up those issues I guess tomorrow. I guess the agenda for today is make sure we're all on the same page. If there's any, particularly hot topics on the content, we could discuss them. Then we can shift into talking about publication, logistics, what we need to think about. Colin has done a really cool initial stab at getting a site up, which he's going to show us. Right, Colin? I just chatted him before. That'll be awesome. So we'll talk about that. Then I want to talk a little bit about as we go out to publication, how we might get more feedback and iterate, and then a few other topics I put in here. Feel free to add in if you want to add in. So let's jump in. Are there topics on the content that we should discuss here? Does anyone want to bring anything up?
So Josh, on the measuring the success of the platform team, like I have put together some of the content, look at the different articles visible, explore and do the research on the different people have put together thoughts on it. But the challenge here is like are we talking about the team what the subject is, measuring the success of the platform team? Or are we just planning to put the content for just how platform can help you achieve success, or what are actually the requirement for the team to have those capabilities in? So we see there's a section in the call here, but how do we actually synchronize this stuff? Because this is very important. When this product is finished, finalizes, you see but somebody is reading the content, his mind can be synchronized with what already we have written in.
So let's think about this. The metrics section the idea is, hey, we've promised that platforms are going to deliver certain values if you seek certain attributes, and we want to answer the question, how will you verify that? How will you know that your thing is delivering the values that we said it will? So that, I guess what's in there now is like 3 categories with some specific, like 3 or 4 bullets in each one of what you would measure to verify to your execs, to yourself, that you're achieving your goal. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Yes, like I'm thinking on this point, like, let's say if we're talking about success, so some articles suggest like you have a direction, you have a connections, you have adaptability, attitude, and performance. These basically for the team, not for the platform. These attributes belong to the teams. Those team has to be adaptable with the how things evolve in the space. That is actually the team thinking. Then on the topic of end-to-end visibility, we had PR cycle time, coding time, review time, release time, deploy time, lead time for changes, change failure rate. These actually give us another level of spectrum. Like we have to find those 3 or 5 categories that can be relate together, and then we can build the foundation on that, because this section is very important if somebody reading the content of the paper, because he's investing a lot of time understanding if I am actually building a platform, or actually my team is actually managing the platform, how do I rate my success? Because that platform might be 2-year team working on the same platform. So it's a very important section. So actually I'm investing a lot of time, but haven't made a pull request into it, have written a document into it. But definitely, I think my plan is like we can go with the changes we already have now. And are these changes, just like I'm thinking about, if we doesn't do a PR pull request to the measuring the success of the platform team and take more time, and then we do it again. So this is the content that we're actually analyzing. When do we roll out another release in the future?
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's a significant refactor, which is fair, but that was actually one of the things I wanted to propose, is that we release this first one as V1 Beta 1. So that's kind of in the next, so we're dipping into how we're going to publish this. I was thinking of V1 Beta 1, and I was thinking that, we'll write a blog post, announcing this paper and giving links to wherever we have it, but we could take advantage of the opportunity. I was actually talking this over with a couple people on the talk. We could take advantage of the opportunity to run a pretty big survey. If we can get the CNCF to help us to really learn about platform adoption, like, are we along the lines of what people are doing? Like, we can make a survey which aligns with the stuff in our paper. Like, are these metrics, we have to think about it, the exact, expressions, but are these metrics relevant? Are we on mark? Are the attributes, are these things that people are finding helpful? Are we missing things? Capabilities. So yeah, I was back to what you were asking, Saeem. Like, if we go out with a V1 beta and we say, like, we're going to iterate this, maybe Chicago, November, KubeCon, then we'll have V1, then you'll have plenty of time to, like, in the summer, refactor that section if you want, or write a second level into it. Like, here's, a paper just on measuring.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should, at this point, I feel like we're ready to get some feedback. Like, that's kind of tangible. And if we need to, restructure, do different things, I think then we'll have the time for it, right? So, but it's like one of those things. It's like, let's get something out there. Let's iterate. And we've kind of worked on this as like an internal group so far, but I think it's now important to kind of get that broader perspective. Maybe another thing too as well is that Platform Con is happening in June, which plenty of platform engineering folks will be there, right? So it could be, I don't know if we want to do that since it's CNCF and all that kind of stuff, but that could also be a good opportunity for us to, if we want to, say, hey, like, give us feedback, without like, so those are opportunities there as well.
I just heard a suggestion to reach, and then maybe I could reach out to Luca and see if we should present this as one of the things in Platform Con.
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's better for us to get alignment, or at least have a conversation, right? I think everybody's going to kind of have a different view based on their organizational needs. I think we've kind of recognized that a little bit in the platform engineering community, right? There's going to be certain, hey, this is how I see my business. But at least in this, I feel like in this paper, we're not kind of saying this has to be done this way. We're kind of just giving a sort of golden path on how to think about the problem, right? So, so yeah, I feel like it should be a pretty neutral point of view overall.
Yes. So Josh, like, if one is the last, like, is it still time to have some PR get accepted as of today, or when actually we locking everything
like, if
up?
it's a major refactor, that might be hard to work through. But if it's like small edits or add a line to a list or something, that would be easier.
Yes. So I will try to make it a very small chain, not a bigger one. I know that's And also on the topic of with Colin is working on, I think Netlify, the CNCF using a lot of the Netlify project, even in the CNCF glossary, they are using the Netlify. I believe for the cloud native maturity website, they're actually using the same Netlify. So we're actually using the same reference, like is hosting on the website and people can read it, or is a paper where people can download as a PDF and run it through or read it via offline. So I think initial strategy was to make it available as a Netlify, I guess.
So let's get into that, but let's make sure, are we all good on the paper content? Anything else that we should bring up?
Maybe just a question about what are the next steps now? Will we go through the, like, review the syntax, grammar, and I know we mentioned about some grammar check and in general syntax check previously, or like what are the next steps? And how can we
I put
help,
that in
like,
the
through the steps?
section. Yeah, that's a good question. I put that in the published section. We should try to get, I mean, Taras had said he might have a copy editor. I can ask around at Red Hat. Like, we should get like some copy edit reviews if we can.
Would you be okay if I ran it through Grammarly once? I have a Grammarly like subscription, so like I could just kind of run it through end to end and whatever needs fixing. Like I'm like happy to do, or I can, we can, because we might as well at least do like that before we do the kind of more formal edit.
You could run it through
everything you can
ChatGPT.
do is perfect.
ChatGPT, see if ChatGPT agrees.
Um,
Yeah, whatever
Sorry,
anyone can do.
Sorry, there are a bunch of voices that came in that one. Sorry, what should I do it or no? Okay, cool. Yeah. So I can take a look into that. Yeah.
Another thing, you should also consider making some kind of a public comment period for the white paper. So
Well, that's been the past 2 months.
but a broader one. So not only in the working group. For the operator white paper, we did the same thing in the Tech App Delivery itself, announced via the mailing list. And also we published it on the TOC mailing list.
Oh, I mean, I wish we had thought of that before. I feel like we can't get, I mean, they've all known about it. I've published it in a few places, not on those mailing lists. I mean, we definitely want more feedback. I don't know that we're going to refactor. I mean, Chris Anishik read it already back in like December and stuff. I talked with Alexis Richardson last week. So they're definitely aware of it. The intent was these past 2 months was the review period.
Just write it out via the tech mailing list. Let them review 1 to 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah. Share it a little broader. Okay. Share one last time. With talk.
I'm wondering if that really makes sense. So I don't know if the current timeline is that because we said we wanted to finish the draft by now, or is the CNCF setting those timelines?
I wasn't thinking of changing the timeline, meaning I don't expect major refactors from the talk. And if they do come back with that, then we'll have to revisit. I mean, I'd like to just say we're done with it, like it's content complete, but like just, yeah, hopefully they sign off and there's nothing major. The deadline is ours. We've created that.
It's only about it's only about getting everyone in the boat. And for the operator white paper, the changes were not too hard. The only advantage we got there was that we got a lot of more editors and reviewers. But the content didn't change very much. In fact, everything we are doing in the CNCF is about consensus and so on. So therefore, when we publish something, this should be as broad as possible. The consensus should be as broad as possible.
I think that's a little what I'm reacting to. I think we have tried to share this very, very, very broadly, but we can do it again.
The only reason why I'm bringing it up is if we bring it to a bigger group, and if there are more concerns and ideas, and then we will need more time to, reach another consensus, like people might be disagreeing with something, and then the timeline will move back. So my only concern is like, would we be okay to move back the timeline for a month or so? Because I think the intention was to get it done by KubeCon. So we just have to kind of agree, maybe amongst us for now, that, like, let's say end of March is the final deadline, and any other things that have been brought up but have not been discussed and agreed upon, we just don't put in. Like that needs to be then beta 2 or whatever.
So
Exactly.
we could share
Yeah.
it and be clear that we're not going to make, like, this is the final version. If you have an editorial comment or two, good. Otherwise, wait till V1. Wait till post V1 beta 1.
This is the final version of beta 1, right? So I think if we phrase it like that, it's okay. Hey, it's a beta, and we will definitely, we have there will be room, right, to address more feedback. It's just that we need to get something out for sure, right?
But
It's-
therefore,
yeah.
it won't be published as a PDF, right?
So let's go to the next. Then, if we're okay on
Because-
that, let's go to the next thing. I think we should think about both the PDF and what Colin's going to show. Was what I was thinking.
Because it's when it's only a beta 1, it's not finished.
Well, yeah, and half of Kubernetes is beta 1, so I mean it's okay.
Yes. But it's not finished.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not enterprise ready, maybe, but it can be public.
So what we could do with beta 1 is that we publish it on Netlify and so on in this state. And
I would rather
therefore-
us publish it. I mean, we could talk about this, Thomas, but I think we should get the PDF out too. I mean, it'll say V1 beta 1 if that makes us more comfortable.
I
But
think it
why-
would be
why
really
do-
helpful. Yeah, with the PDF. I know other white papers from CNCF also among colleagues and fellow engineers. They find the PDFs very convenient because they're easy to share and to read, and you can even print it out like if you want that, or on a tablet,
Yes, but
offline,
what-
whatever.
I mean, we
Well,
have run concentric circles. Like the first paper was the first edition of this was November. Our original deadline for comments was end of December, and we got, that was in the Google Doc, and we got a lot of reviews there. Then we brought it in here and we said, let's delay for we'll shoot for KubeCon EU, and that's been our timeline. So that's why we set today as the end date so that we can get it out for discussion by KubeCon.
But if you are convinced of the content and if you want to publish it in the as CNCF or as the tag app delivery or whatever, then we should be brave enough to say it is a version 1.
I don't think it's about brave. I think it's about being humble. In other words, we need to realize that, I mean, of course, I work with customers every day. You all work with customers, but we need more feedback. Like that's why it's a beta. Like Kubernetes doesn't only release something when it's V1. You need feedback.
Yes, but you can for instance, if someone writes a book and he's not totally convinced of that these are things which are there in the wild, he also doesn't write on the first page, this is a beta 1.
Well,
So
maybe
how important is
every
that
book has a V2. So like maybe there are early releases, like to your point, like that Manning has the whole, early access program. So I don't know. I kind of lean to V1 beta 1 is actually a good signaling mechanism to the community that we aren't like stating this absolutely, that we want feedback. But I also don't want to like make it like this is not ready for you to read. Like that would
that's what the if you any product beta, right? A product beta, you would say, hey, this is a working version. We've gotten some input. Things can change a little bit, and that's fine. I feel like that's kind of the balance we'll have to straddle, because the thing is, if we don't make this a little bit sort of official, saying like, hey, this is a formalized first version of it, what's going to happen is it's like it could get messier, right? It's like then and then also like from a timeline point of view, I think it doesn't allow us to kind of have a good iterative and cadenced approach, right? So I say like, yeah, we say this is the first beta version of it. we state clearly that there's room for feedback. We'd welcome everybody's feedback, right? And then, you know, there can be some differences between your beta and final version, and that's fine, right? I feel, yeah, I mean, I guess like we'll have to start somewhere. So
Yes, I think Josh, but
Ian
your
has-
point, like if you look at the, I think our community is already being aware of this word called V1 Beta 1. So they are being aware of this word, and that's a good point. If let's say if we can call it other thing, let's say early access program, then people try to think about this as a book, because those words used by the Manning publication and the book publication as well. So I think we are aware of the V1 Beta 1. I think that's make a lot of sense. I see the cartographer group or the cloud data maturity model, they have using the same techniques when they actually publish the paper as well.
So at the moment, I'm only aware of two of three white papers. This is the one from the operator working group, and there are some from the security working group. And nobody of them did a V1 Beta 1. Therefore, we have to find out if this is something we could make, or and if this is wished by the CNCF, because we are bringing out an official document. Don't forget about this. And there, on the first page, there is a CNCF logo.
So I'm just wondering, like specifically, Thomas, what your issue is with naming it a beta. Do you feel like if we name it a beta, it just feels like this is not ready, this is not done, don't read it, this is just for internal purposes?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So
Because I don't feel like there is like there will ever be a final version, right? We will probably constantly update it and change it. So we could, in my opinion, to me, it's just semantics, really. I don't
So
care
it could
that
be
much.
V1 and say there'll be
So
V2.
it could be yeah, it could be if we don't ever reach a V1, this is now, you know, done. I do see that beta, especially in our industry, has particular meaning. So it could be, yeah, I totally see your point.
So what we could do with this version, if you want, and if this is okay for everyone, we could publish it as a preview. Then it's clear for everyone that it's not final.
I think that actually this is bringing out, maybe we should just do V1. If this is causing so much confusion, like let's just call it V1 and say we'll have a V2 in KubeCon.
Or a
KubeCon.
V1 or whatever, if there are revisions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thomas, what did you want to say something? I was going to ask for people.
Yeah, but basically the same thing. Like I wanted to suggest, like, what if we go with V1, and then of course we get feedback and we can release V1.1, 1.2, I think, and then major changes V2, like they did that in the security white paper, major like change, and then, I mean, if we want to avoid
And the
confusion,
version is
beta,
clear.
yeah.
I guess I'm kind of coming to the conclusion here that we should call it V1. The optics will be better, and we can still iterate forward, and we can just say we're going to iterate.
I think this is perfect, and if there are many revisions of the white paper, the better it is.
I know. I also like, if we can say we've iterated through this 3 times, even better. That shows, yeah, okay. Yeah, V2 will sound better at KubeCon Chicago. So, okay. Yeah, thank you.
one question is though, like, my only worry is like, we're not on, like, we have to have some timeline. That's where a little bit of like when is the final version, right? Like are we not committing to that then yet? Or
Let's talk about it.
You know what I'm saying? Like if V2 is, yeah, like Chicago KubeCon, when is V final, you know?
There's never, like, when's V final of Chrome or Firefox?
Okay, so we're not, okay, got it. So this is a thing that's, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, it should settle,
Perfect.
I guess. It's not fair. We're not going to release a new version every 6 months, hopefully, you know. But, you know,
yeah. No, that's totally good. And then, yeah, like each year, like, you know, going forward, I'm sure, you know, when we can kind of have, say, hey, like, you know, things have changed in XYZ in the landscape, and, you know, we've addressed these specific points or added these new metrics, or, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's, Thomas, I think that's a great
I think
idea.
there's-
Yeah. So like, yeah.
I think there's so much traction in the whole platform landscape and so on that it will change very often in the first month, in the first revisions.
Yeah, and I like how you said that. I mean, I wrote down in the thing, like, even if we don't have a new release, say in 2 years, like just check in every 6 months or something. It'll be worthwhile.
Yeah, it gives us more credence and credibility to what we're working on, right? The fact that we're saying, hey, this is we're iterating on this, whatever minor or major, we recognize that this is going to be like a guiding doc for the platform engineering community and stuff. So
Yeah,
So
one of
we
our
are aiming. Yeah, a question about the timeline. So we are aiming for a version 1.0 for KubeCon Europe, or
Yeah.
okay.
I put down there, and that's the next question is when should we, I guess, well, Colin, do you want to show us what you've done so far? I guess let's just have that as part of the conversation. So I want to turn it over to Colin to show us stuff. You're on mute, Colin.
Yep. Had to figure that out. Yeah, so essentially what I did, so for me, I'm a bit of a more visual learner. We can work in Markdown stuff all day, but I need to see something on paper and published. And so it's to some of the other comments, Cartographos was in a state of being unpublished or unwebified or whatever you want to call it for, I don't know, a year. It was a really long time, or it seemed, and they just now got around to doing that. But essentially what I did is I duplicated the website structure that they use. So just copied over the styling, everything else, at their blessing, followed the same structure and built a site for the platforms group. There's a couple of questions to answer because platforms is it's a little weird how Cartographos is its own thing, right? It's like its own group and it's the maturity model and it's kind of one-to-one, whereas here Cloud Native Platforms is kind of a group underneath app delivery, and we're trying to figure that out. So a little bit of grace there, but I've got a published site. I'm just buying time to try to figure out how to share my screen because I use Zoom a quarter of the time. Let's see. So sorry, go ahead.
You got it working, so I'm good. I was going to give you.
Okay. Yeah, so this, for example, is the Cloud Native Maturity Model site. It's fairly simple. It's all Markdown based, right? So it enforces good formatting and stuff in your Markdown files. They've got several high-level sections like level 1, level 2, level 3, and they're trying to work people through the maturity. Obviously, our structure is a little different where we're focusing on major sections. But with proper formatting, the site takes care of the rest. It's a standard Markdown site. It'll give us on the right-hand side, content or sub-content sections. On the left-hand side are the major pages or the major sections and information about how to contribute. I'd say there are opportunities on a site like this to add links and things where if we're asking for feedback from the audience that we could say, hey, we're looking for case studies, contact us. There's all kinds of ways to embed some stuff that isn't necessarily core to the paper. So I've got a site up on one of my vanity URLs. This is just on a fork that I have. It's in a public repo. I haven't done a PR against it because this content is not updated and we've been waiting for content changes to get merged. And I know that there are a couple of remaining PRs out there, so I'll update the content when we merge those PRs as well. But I've broken this out into the major different sections on the left-hand side here. Why platforms? What is a platform? Attributes, platform teams, capabilities of platforms, challenges of platforms. In order to webify it or make it make sense outside of a paper's context, I've kind of changed a couple of things or added some taglines and things there, such as our table of contents. But hopefully referencing something visual like this will help people provide some feedback as well. Everything else is functional on this page. Obviously, we need a different logo instead of the Cloud Native Maturity Model in the top left, but contribution links back to, it has a section about contributing back to Tag App Delivery. I pulled all that information from the app delivery pages, right? How to contribute to the websites, how can you pull this thing and actually work on the paper via the website. All the links and everything work. So if you want to hit that on your own and poke through it, it's just platforms.devneedies.com. And it's just, again, it's just a temporary vanity URL. It's just I'm hosting it on Kubernetes in one of our clusters. So, we've got resource sections, glossary. One of the asks that I would have is, as we're formatting the different paper sections, we aren't breaking things out into subsections at all. So there's a little bit of clarity we can probably gain from creating some little subsections in the papers to break them out a little bit. But go ahead, poke through the information doesn't one-to-one match what has been pulled in the recent or merged in the recent pull requests and all that. But I hope this format helps some people provide some feedback or see some things. And this should be set up for us to be able to say, hey, CNCF, this is ready to go when you're ready to put this on, the primary website.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing I'm just looking at the left here. Yeah, I guess it's fine if we're repeating like capabilities of platforms, challenges with platforms. Like, do we like very small bit, but do we want to just say capabilities, challenges, or do we want to be explicit in the section heading
That was something I took a little bit of liberty on when I was going through it. When I kind of self-reviewed or read back through it, tried to take a fresh take on it, it didn't really feel like challenges and capabilities should go together, where capabilities is talking about the things that the platform does, and then challenges is almost like the troubleshooting, debugging section. Like, well, if you're having trouble doing something, these are some common problems, some common challenges that you might face. And so I just broke it out separately. But absolutely, that's a perfect example of how it might appear differently in a different type of context.
Oh, sorry. I guess my question was more just repeating like the of platforms and with platforms. Do we just want to call them capabilities and challenges, right? I think it's fine either way, right? And plus this is the first version, so it's like, yeah.
I guess the main question today would really be, you could use this mechanism to help manage the paper a little bit, because again, it's just Markdown and it's just breaking things down into separate files. Let me see if I can share the folder structure a little bit here, actually. Maybe that would be helpful.
And Colin, I was going to ask along the lines of what Abhinav was asking also, like, will you create a PR and will we have a chance to discuss some of these things?
Yes, and that's kind of where I'm going with the questions here.
Okay.
Let's see, I believe this is on my, I don't have this pushed, so it's not going to be in my repo. But essentially each file is now a separate Markdown file as opposed to one big Markdown file. And that's the major change there. And so if we want to use this as a mechanism for managing and editing the content, we can. That's going to influence how how I do the pull request. Right, how we merge this back in with the paper. Is this a separate instance of the paper? Is it the paper? How does that kind of look? Now for Cartographos, it is a separate area. That's what I can show.
What does that mean? You sync the content from the source into the website publishing folder or something?
Yeah, and you have to do it a little bit manually at this point. But this is Cartographos today. And they have a separate folder for website. And then website has a folder for content, right, which contains the different Markdown files. And it's easy enough to just copy the content over or follow some versioning. Or, I'm sure you could automate things to the ends of the earth, but in this case, it's just managed in a separate area. And that's, I think, fine to follow as a pattern.
So I guess from a, yeah, I was thinking from the just like one like my 2 cents is that from like the editing perspective, at least what I found is that sure, the paper is like, there's a bunch of sections and you're kind of like having to work in a little bit one. I do feel where that's really helped though is that like making sure we're not like repeating ourselves or making, like Josh and I have talked about this, right? Like it's like, hey, this was already addressed in the specific sections. Let's just be very, very clear cut in terms of what we want to talk about and what is a platform, for example, right? So I think from an editing point of view or, making PRs, I think having it in one file would be better, just so anybody who's editing it can go back, see the other sections, make kind of compare and contrast, and making sure they're just kind of very crystal clear cut on the stuff they're working on.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And one mechanism, if we decided to use the website, I could put a section on there that is like the full paper and just have one big long running thing. But I'm in the same mindset.
+1 from me. Yeah, let's keep the paper.md as the source of truth, and we'll copy this in, and maybe one day we'll optimize and it will do it automatically.
Have some cron job or something ready. Just like
Yeah, we'll do something or follow the versioning and have the website lag behind one release, or if the paper is the nightly, there's all kinds of ways we could talk about that.
Yeah, we can build a platform to do this.
Yeah, I mean, part of the thought was as we start looking at Backstage or something there, maybe the website and the paper itself is one of the templates. It could be interesting to do that.
Actually, yes, that's a cool idea. A golden path template for creating a white paper.
Right.
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have
Colin, just one question from my side is like, let's say in future, we want to make some graph diagrams or like animations or graphs. So are these actually embedded, can be embedded in this website? I haven't seen any of the website and the CNCF, like especially in the Netlify, which seems somebody mentioning the graph, but I think like what I see, we might have areas where we can include some of the references, like this is how things evolve. So is it possible?
Yes. So that's where I got the diagrams image from. I got the diagrams image from the file uploaded to GitHub that's embedded in the Markdown, and then just moved that into the static content folder of the website. So that's how Cartographos does it as well, right? Like these images are actually in the site. And then we just reference those in the Markdown. So here in the Markdown, I believe, I don't know the exact page here. Yeah, here in the Markdown, you can see it's embedded with a local file reference here. So people can easily do, add your image, do a pull request, put the image into the content, same way you would just manage any other site.
Yes, that's totally makes sense. And another last question from my side, like let's say if as we go and as we evolve, what the next step? Like if I made, let's say, pull request into this GitHub repository, so are these changes automatically push into the website, or there's approval from you, or is the GitHub action running behind the scene? How is actually day two responsibilities works?
Yeah, so right now I have it set up to build and deploy a Docker image from the main branch, which is pretty typical workflow. It would be easy to have PR branches, right? That maybe launch a subdomain of the subdomain so that you can have a public reference for review. That's the way that we do our applications internally, so that developers don't have to self-host and use ngrok or something like that. So yeah, I think there's a ton of ways. And honestly, this is fun because it feeds back into the platform for how we publish the paper, however cheesy that sounds. So yeah, I'm totally on board, and I think we can all work together to steer how we want that to be accomplished, and then use that as kind of our own standard, because every platform's different, right? And for this one, it's like kind of Markdown or a Jamstack, whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot of guidance to be had for the market on Jamstack and how to automate those deployments and things too. So that's fun there. I'm thinking the same thing you are.
One thing I'll
yes,
just,
absolutely. We definitely can work together too.
I think that we agree, and just to answer Saeed's question, like going forward, we'll submit edits against paper.md for now, at least. And then we would sync it, we'll all review and talk about it there. And then once it's merged, then somebody will have to go in and I guess you could have it in the same PR. It could either be, but the focus is to get it to the paper MD and then get it into the website after second step.
So the website will be always the current version, and then how about the PDF?
I think you'd want to be deliberate about when these get published. I think you publish and version the website to match the publication of the PDF. It's like latest versus nightly, right? Latest should match the PDF and go out and get published at the same time. Let's coordinate releases on that. But somebody could still maybe go see the nightly latest and greatest on the website if they wanted to, or on a separate nightly site, however you guys want to do Canary or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. So like, I guess first paper.md will, after we publish V1, will bump to like vNext or, you know, something like that. And the paper.md will, because we don't want to publish every last little change. We'll just publish, I don't know, when at least every KubeCon, I guess, if there's changes.
Right, you're already managing this current version of the paper on a trunk in the repo. So it's not even merged, right, as the latest branch in Tag App Delivery. So we're already following that flow. I think that's perfectly acceptable.
Cool.
All right, let me just for anyone else, it's just there at platforms.devneedies.com if you need to reference it later. And again, the content is not totally up to date. And I expect that there definitely will be some formatting changes or addition of links or whatever that needs to look like.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Where we need a DNS name, right? Is that what you're asking how to structure?
Yeah, and I think that'll come from CNCF, right? They should be able to give us a subdomain.
Yeah.
I'm also not sure if we can, if we could do this website on a separate repository. Because I think this makes hosting a bit easier.
Yeah, having it as a separate repository might make some of this a little easier. Just for the fact, if I look at, so if we look at the base tree here for Cartographos, right, it's fairly straightforward, and we've got a folder for website because the cloud native maturity model is Cartographos. But if we go to Tag App Delivery, then we've got all these separate ones. And so personally, it would make sense to me if the platform's white paper itself got its own repo as a part of publication to avoid all the other issue confusion and all that other monorepo nonsense. But then also just like put the website in a folder, or yeah, maybe we just make it a separate repo for the website or both.
Yes, Josh, I think we should take care of this.
Okay, Thomas, you think we should have a second repo? Yeah, let's do that then.
I'm not sure if we will get the second repo because I had a similar issue with operator white paper and I didn't get one. But let's see.
Okay, I'm trying to write down here what steps we have pending. So we need a domain and we need to consider a separate Git repo. And Colin, you're going to make the PR.
Yeah, or if you create the repo and you give me contributor, then I could just push it direct, which is fairly straightforward. Or you create the new repo and then I'll do a PR against that, I suppose, is an easy way.
I mean, the nice thing about PR is people can chat there, so that might be nice.
Yeah, that sounds good. Do you want the PR after the new repo or before the new repo?
I guess we got to determine if we're going to have a new repo. Yeah, so Thomas, I guess we'll work on that in the next few days and see if that seems promising. And if so, we'll go that route. If not, then we'll just do it within this repo somehow. Is that okay, Colin?
Yeah, that's cool. And just for my feedback, because I'm going to have to update the content. Maybe I'm jumping ahead, but where do we stand on the open PRs for getting things reviewed or rejected or tagged for the next release? Or not?
Yeah, today is the last day. So, today let's merge in whatever we can. The next, today. I mean, if it's tomorrow, maybe that's not the end of the world, but let's not say that too loud. And then, we're about done. I mean, it's still 6 weeks till we're publishing, but like, yeah, we're trying to get this done now, and you should be able to publish. I mean, I guess we'll maybe publish one more time, in a couple weeks, but
Yeah, I think that sounds good. If you get started on getting that URL, if that takes a few weeks, I'm happy to hop on with whoever need to, or go talk to Chris and see what the requirements were for them to publish from Cartographos. But we can get this thing published and just don't announce it, way earlier than the 6 weeks, which would be nice.
yeah, I was actually thinking that when you were telling us about the existing site, like don't share that too broadly yet, or everyone will read the pre-release and
Right.
but yeah, amongst
Put some
ourselves.
disclaimers on it. Yeah. Construction symbols, animated construction symbols like the old days.
I mean, it's not like they couldn't read paper.md already, and like that's been this whole time, but yeah, it's cool. Okay, so we need to check into getting us a repo. Me and Thomas get a domain, and Colin, you'll submit the PR. There was one other question I had, which is like second level. That's not, it doesn't matter so much right now. Don't want to block anything on it, but just think about where, like, let's say we write a paper on treating your platform as a product. I know Taras is, or secrets is another one I wanted to just mention that I've started to pursue. Like, where would that go in here? Something to think about.
Yeah, that was something that, so right now in the current state, the sections kind of broke out nicely to having separate pages. But I do think at some point we're gonna have convergence, and we might need to pull some of those sections together, like the capabilities of platforms versus the challenges. Today is one section in the paper, and I happen to break it out as two for the clarity and the not the glossary, whatever, the contents, the table of contents.
The navigation, right?
Yeah, and so we can just adjust
Yeah.
for that. And then on that right-hand side, since these papers are so short, we don't have any subsections, and the right-hand side of the site will automatically pick up those, header 2s and header 3s as the subsections. And so if we just properly format our markdown, then the rest should just take care of itself. So anything that's like a header 1 would be its own page, and then header 2s and 3s, right, and 4s would be like subsections on those individual pages.
Yep.
And yes, include images and diagrams and links and all that good stuff. That'll make it.
I'm hoping that if we get it up there, and then we'll get some graphic designers come along and add some pictures and diagrams for us over time.
That's my hope too.
Didn't that happen with Cartographos? Some people made those pictures, and I've seen that. Okay, I'm gonna move to the next thing because we're running low on time. So this survey idea, I wanted to bring it up, but I need to I don't know. We want to get feedback. We've talked about an interview framework. I was talking with Alexis Richardson last week, and he was like, you guys, when you publish this paper, you have a great opportunity to find out what really people want from platforms and make sure we're on the right stage. Why don't you get a survey out there at the same time? I like that. It's a little easier than trying to find lots of interviews. Not to say we shouldn't do that too. So I was thinking, like, let's work on that. I mean, I'm happy to help. Like, let's put together a list of 5 to 10 questions, kind of correlated with the paper, but also explaining the things that we want to learn. I'm being pretty broad, just trying to give an idea of what the survey would look like. If we wanted to do that, I was thinking of going and asking, talking with Alexis recommended asking Chris Anishik about this. So I was thinking of asking him and getting him to like go in on that and have the CNCF really support us there.
So one recommendation I have before we start to put questions together, and this just kind of my, kind of on the product side and having to do surveys before, is like, if we can kind of look at other surveys that have been done as well. Like, there is a state of platform engineering report that's out there. The key thing is we don't want to, it's okay to repeat, but we want to make sure we're not like fully repeating or doing something that's redundant, right? So it would be good to kind of like, we can have a survey doc, but kind of list down like, hey, what's been discovered so far? What's yet to be discovered, right? At a high level, and then come up with the questions, I think that would give us like a kind of a good methodology to building this survey, if that's okay with folks. I think there's a few platform engineering reports that are out there that we can probably start to leverage and kind of work our way from there.
I like that. Yeah. And something that Alexis was mentioning, and which I wanted to mention here also, is that we're kind of unique in that we're coming from a vendor neutral space. So maybe there's opportunities to ask something different because of that also.
That's a really good point too, right? Like in these vendor surveys or whatever, if we see something that's like, hey, like, is this biased towards this, or if this is like kind of like, you know, we need to grab more information, you know, that can also prompt us to do it in that way as well. So so I think, yeah, it could be a really good opportunity for us there.
I think that is the most important part of that particular thing, because all of the surveys that I've seen do come from some sort of vendor, and they might be, you know, unbiased in the content and everything like that, but you usually have to go through hoops to get to it, and you know, it's done by marketing people. And just having that option of doing something from the CNCF, which is vendor neutral, with strict rules about that and everything like that, it makes it worth. It's not like we're gonna flood the market with surveys about platform engineering anytime soon. So I think it's a good idea to do that with the white paper as an actual unbiased alternative to the others.
Yes, and like Josh, I think what we need to plan is going forward. Like there are some of the surveys done by CNCF. If you look at the CNCF annual survey report, if you can look at the CNCF, they have actually conducted some not specifically related to the platform, but some of the stuff that can help us out. So what I do is like I will see how many surveys that we can leverage for the platform thing, because CNCF have good list of report available on there. That is part one of the strategies. And then we can fine tune some other surveys that can be, that has some vendor neutral things in there we can coordinate as well. And what is missing is actually a debatable, like what need to be surveyed is actually, that's a plan that's we actually able to understand when we look at the surveys report from the CNCF, and then we figure out a way to do it.
Makes sense to me. I'm kind of thinking the next step is to open an issue, start a doc with some of this brainstorms, and ask in the issue if people will share existing surveys and stuff for us to learn from. I'm thinking let's start by iterating in the doc, but by the next meeting, so 2 weeks from today, actually, it's actually next week. No, 2 weeks from today, the 14th of March. We can discuss that in our next meeting and get close to something final. In the meantime, I'll reach out to the leaders at CNCF too and get their ideas and make sure they have our back. All right, I'm putting that on me. Yeah, one of the things I want to ask them, and I put it in the notes here, but is that there is a user research group at CNCF, but apparently it's been relatively inactive, but there might be an opportunity to bootstrap something there too. So I'll ask about that. You know,
Yeah, maybe
we have
even like how, yeah, exactly. Or maybe I was just going to say like I think it would be good for us to kind of drive like what questions we want to ask, but maybe they can help us package the questions in a way which is palatable to anybody, you know, doing the survey and the format. You know, I think there would be certain things where we want to do multiple choice or open response or whatever it is. I don't know that yet, but we can ask them that kind of feedback as well.
Cool. Yeah, so as usual, we're getting to the end of the time. There's a few more items in this in the doc, but I don't think it's really anything we have to discuss here right now. I did put down KubeCon EU just because Thomas is here. He's been coordinating the work for the tag. There will be a Tag App Delivery meetup on Tuesday afternoon. I mean, that's for the whole tag, so it's not just platforms. Thomas, I know you want me to say that. But we definitely want to talk a little bit about platforms there. We could talk about our work if we want, the paper. We could talk about that. One of the ideas we've been batting around is having some lightning talks to highlight, something really innovative about your domain, because we all know the basics, but if you want to spend 5 or 10 minutes, something really unique that you want everyone to know about, maybe we'll do something like that. So I just wanted to put that on your radar. Think about it. Come to the tag meeting tomorrow. We'll probably discuss this some there.
And if you have some cool use cases regarding platforms and so on, which you want to present on the booth, you can also do so, but it doesn't have, it shouldn't be any product pitch or something marketing related stuff. So it should be only about technology and only about open source.
Cool. And is there a link to signing up for the KubeCon event, or how do we
We'll
do
get that
exactly?
We got to work that out.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
I guess like participating, I should have listened a little more carefully. Participating, you don't need to sign up. Just come. We'll put up a post with the exact details of where it is and stuff. But like if you want to present or something like that, we'll figure out how to, I guess, write to me if you specifically want to, but we'll get some sort of form up for some structure. Yeah, the other stuff that's on the list is, so I wanted to call out the secret stuff, which I'm going to post in our channel soon, but I've been sharing that with a few people that are working on secrets related stuff because of the SOP's suggestion to Sandbox. So that seemed like a time to start talking about it. So I put that in there. I called out, I put a note to Alois Reitbauer from the tag, also is starting to talk about like an application spec. Whether that applies to platform, it might for some things. So, take a look at that. Portals, I that's come up so much for me the past couple of months, Backstage and Portals. So I was, maybe we start digging into that a level deeper. I think Backstage is really hot. That might be something you talk about at KubeCon. Yeah, so I just put those down, look them over, I guess. That's still second level work items is I'm trying to move it forward. I don't want us to lose momentum, so that's why I keep bringing it up. So we're getting a little momentum, and we'll keep going.
Yes, and Josh, just the final thoughts on my, for the next community meeting call, do we have a 5 or 10 minute for the Parallels demo that we need to show with the people, because we see because Parallels is actually we see a lot of the projects being listing in the paper, but we definitely need opinion from this working group to know what their thoughts, what they're valuable about it. So we need some 5 to 10 minutes. Is it possible for the next community call we can showcase some of the demos of the CNCF Sandbox project Parallels?
That's a good question. That's a fair question. My tendency at this point is to say that we're mostly focused on our project work, and the tag meeting is maybe where that definitely fits the tag meeting. I guess I'm a little wondering if we start doing that, other people might want to present here, which isn't bad. Like, we want them to present. Yeah, I guess, what does everyone think? I guess let's get everyone's thoughts. Like, should we, if we time box it to say 10 minutes, should we talk about projects in these meetings?
So is this already a Sandbox project, or are they applying for Sandbox?
It's already a Sandbox project.
Yes, but then I think it would be a good idea to make this in a tag meeting. And just also announce it on the platform's channel, and all the platform people who want to attend should attend the app delivery thing.
Okay, I think that makes sense. We can do it there, and then if we want feedback from, I think, is it okay to post on the channel and just ask? Okay, cool, perfect. Yeah, so we can definitely do that for sure.
Yes, let's work it out. I mean, let's come to the tag channel and we'll get you scheduled. I don't know if tomorrow will work, because I think we might already have an agenda, but
For
Yeah,
tomorrow
for
we
sure,
have an
for sure.
agenda.
Yeah, so 2 weeks probably would work.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I love the presentation. I learned a lot from those. So
Yep.
yeah, anything else, folks, at 11 o'clock? All right. It's been great talking to everybody. Good work. We're moving forward. This is amazing. Thank you all for your help, and see you online. Talk to you in a couple weeks.
Thanks,
Have a
Josh.
great
Thanks,
day.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a
Thanks,
wonderful
everyone.
day. Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Bye.